I'll record it. Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you so much. I'll give a little bit of introduction, and then at the later part of this meeting, you can feel free to ask me any questions and so on. Can be very interactive. No problem at all. So, I'm Patrick Chun. I'm one of the co-founders of IITTI World Civility Index, and first thing, people always say, hey, well, what is this civility index? What does it do? So it is somewhat similar to your financial personal credit rating. But instead of measuring how well a person can pay his bills, it measures how much manners a person has, how much empathy, how much intercultural awareness a person has in that regard. And the history of it is that myself being an engineer, a computer programmer, I do the measurement. So we invented this World Civility Index as a measurement. The other founders are world-renowned trainers, and they come from Singapore, the Netherlands, USA, Canada, of course, Chile, and other countries. And they do corporate training. And one of the things that are really a problem with companies is that human resource people have very little ideas, very little tools to use to really gauge an applicant's people skills. Everybody on the resume say they are a good communicator, they're a good team player, and so on. But how do you prove it? How do you sort through if you have 300 applicants coming in for one position? How do you gauge? How do you do that? So before the World Civility Index, there were very little ways except to do assessment, do interviews, and so on, which those are the human resource recruitment process. And it takes a lot of energy and money. So the more they can streamline something like this, the more it will be for the whole company. So this happens for all companies in the world. Repeat, all companies in the world. So when the IITTI World Civility Index come about, and we talk to human resource people, is with a very warm welcome. And so now the human resource person can actually look at the resume and say, wow, this person has 100 points of World Civility Index, for example, versus somebody who don't have anything, don't care. We will recommend the company to give priority for interviews for the person with the 100 points. And you say, now, how do you earn those points? It is what we call micro learning. So every day, a person can read an article, or watch a video, or attend some seminars that our group set up, and so on, and they can earn 1 point per day. So 3 minutes or 5 minutes at the most. That's what we call micro learning in that regard. And why is that? Well, it suits the busy lifestyle of students like yourself and also employees around the world. They can be waiting for the bus or waiting for the subway, and they can finish a lesson per day. And for soft skills, for something like empathy and so on, it makes sense actually to have micro learning because it's a long-term process. But every day you just feed a little bit of nuggets of information and wisdom into the system. And over time, people do become more empathetic. They do become more well-mannered and thinking about others and so on. So that's how you can improve a company culture in a very big way. And there are lots of academic papers and research being done in this field. And that's how we came to this conclusion that I just presented to you. So that's the history. Now, on a bigger scale, there are a lot of companies that can benefit from something like this. Right now, we have something like Volkswagen or NASDAQ, the stock exchange in California, TikTok, and so on. They send employees to our partnering training companies to get this kind of training. And once they get the training, they can earn the World Civility Index in that regard as well. But the thing is, though, my question to you would be, how can we scale that? Because historically, for the last 14 years, it's really about personal relationship. The trainers with certain companies, they have built for over 20, 30 years. And so those are the proven model, the proven business model. But our questions would be, can we talk to 10,000 companies? I'll tell you why 10,000, the number 10,000 companies, it sounds like a big number, and it is. There's an organization called the UNGC, the United Nations Global Compact. And this is 10,000 strong companies that are committed to the UN causes. They have something like what they call the UN SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I think there's something like 16, 17 of them about poverty, education, climate, so on and so forth. And so can we talk to the UNSDG, for example? What would be the communication instrument that we can use that, 10,000 companies, their human resource person will look at, hey, wow, this is good. This is something from IITTI, from Patrick. We can adopt it very quickly. So that would be your challenge, is to write a one-pager. I don't need anything more, but a one-page, very condensed, that would get the human resource people to say, yes, we should phone up Patrick and see how we can actually use the IITTI standard in that regard. So that is the whole challenge in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Patrick. So basically, this is what you want us to do, to write a one page on how we'll be able to scale it so that so many companies will be able to use IITTI.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And how soon do you want us to bring this back to you?
Well, I think there's a limited time with your course. So I think within your course,
Okay.
you can do that in that regard. Yeah.
Okay. So this is pretty good. Based on this information that you have given, anyway, my colleagues, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and ask them. Patrick, I'm just asking. Okay. So,
So, hi, Patrick. Thank you for walking us through IITTA and what IITTA is all about. I'm just really curious. How did that name come about? Because, like,
Yeah, it's an acronym. Right now, it stands for International Soft Skills Standards and Testing. So that's what IITTI stands for. And it used to be another name. It used to mean something else. But now we figure that, the term soft skills is very important. And standards, that's what we stand for. And we don't do training. A lot of people say, hey, who are your competitors with Stanford University or Udemy or somebody like that? No, they are our potential clients, our potential partners. Because we are the standard, open source, that is something that everybody can use. So by us defining ourselves as a standard 14 years ago, instead of creating another training organization, right away, we turn the whole model around. Instead of everybody else become our competitor, we can make everybody to be our partners. So IITTI will be here. We have all the training companies and so on, and they can go out and make the big bucks, and they can feed out the breadcrumbs, the little, but it's good. The model is, if we have a lot of partners and they all give us a little bit of money, we can survive quite well. And right now, I'm very happy to report that we are cash positive. We don't owe anybody any money. We don't have VC. We don't have venture capitalists breathing down our neck and say, hey, you guys, you have to perform, otherwise they're going to pull the plug and so on. It's a nonprofit, so there are no shareholders. Why am I doing that? Because there's no chance in the future that there could be hostile takeover. You know, if you're very successful as a startup, as a company, and so on, there could be a lot of people who want to buy you out. And even if we say no, 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 we don't, that may be very difficult. You know, they can still find ways of buying things out. And so by having it nonprofit, open source, open standard, everything is open. We don't require you to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, because you know you can look under every rock of IITTI, no questions asked. And so that is the beauty. It is so that when we are able to really serve everybody, then we can create the financial stability, because everybody, like I said, you know, we are not looking for making a lot of the big bucks. Every company can go out, and the training company, they can go out to do training and provide services to multinationals and so on. They make the big dollar, and they give us the little licensing fee for the use of the World Civility Index. So we are the gatekeeper of the index. Keep it impartial, keep it neutral, so that everybody can use it, and there could be credibility. Why do I say that? I'll introduce another term for you. The World Civility Index can be used for recruitment, for sure, for employee retention, for internal measurement, like they can use it as a KPI, key performance indicator, using that for internal promotion, raises, and so on. But there's a fourth major item. So I talk about the recruitment, the engagement. So you can engage, you know, having some kind of competition using the World Civility Index, and one group versus another to see who earns more points over time and so on. Friendly competition. And the third one is internal performance evaluation, a KPI. The fourth one is a big one. This one does not just involve the human resource and the L&D, the learning and development manager, for example. This one is about company value. It's about what they call corporate social responsibility, CSR. The fourth one, the latest evolution of the terminology, is called ESG. ESG. What it means is environmental, social, and governance. And ESG, ladies and gentlemen, is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Multi-trillion, okay? This is big. This is like what the private equity firm like BlackRock, the biggest one, I think there's something like trillions of dollars under their management. And their CEO, Larry Fint, Mr. Larry Fint, is a big component of ESG. So there are some people are saying that, you know, there are good guys in the world, and you know, companies are not just all bad, you know, making money and so on. But they're saying that in the traditional way, a company has to do well. They have to financial report, balance sheets, and so on. They have to make a profit. So that's doing well. Now in the 21st century, they also have to do good. And that's the corporate social responsibility, or the ESG. So not only do they have to do well financially, they have to do good. Environment, social causes like human capital development, so on and so forth, and governance. How do they govern themselves, for example? So those are the two reports they have to do. So how does it relate to the World Civility Index? The World Civility Index is about developing people to become more empathetic, to be more loving, concerning people around them, and so on. So that is a major part of human capital development, which is part of the S in ESG, the E, environment, S, social, and governance. So the social part, the social impact, is about how to develop people around it, right? So that is the thing. When employees, they earn points by, you know, like I mentioned, reading articles or watching videos or attending seminars and earn points, we can give a company an average number, a single number called the company average of World Civility Index. So if a company average is 30, that means on average, the employees have each earned 30 points. That's what it means. This number is very useful because for a company, they can generate all kinds of numbers they want, but nobody's going to believe them. This is what they call greenwashing. And that's a big barrier for the success of ESG around the world, is that there are companies that are labeled as greenwashing. They go on and say, oh, yeah, we did all that, and we built an orphanage, and we did clean up the shoreline and so on. Well, how do you prove it? How do you measure it, right? So that becomes very hard. But when it comes to human capital development, then there's a solid number provided by a neutral third party, us, IITTI. And so when we provide companies with that number, they can put that number into their ESG report. So remember what I said about their financial report and an ESG report? Those are both equally important. And so why would that matter? Well, because when they have good ESG report and financial report, they get the favor of investors. Investors put the money, especially institutional investors, the BlackRock and of the world, they look at ESG report very carefully. And they say that, okay, this is a good guy, this is the bad guy, we're not going to put money in there, and this is a good guy, we're going to put money in there, and so on. So by them investing in people training now, they can have a good looking ESG report. And investor put money in there. Think about some multinational company. If they can improve their image of ESG report by 1%, that could mean a multi-million-dollar increase in their stock prices, in their shares. So that's how you can have a very strong ROI. If the company give me $1 million for training their people and all that, and their stock prices go up by $50 million, that's a 50 to 1. That's a really good ROI, really good return on investment in that sense. So those are the stories. Those are the things that we can talk to UNGC. Remember the 10,000 companies? So how do we do that? That's beyond me. I'm just a computer programmer. And how can we write a good marketing story, a good narrative, so that an average HR person who are very smart, but they never heard of IITTI, for example, how can we attract them to make them see that this is something that will be very beneficial to them? That is the major challenge in that regard. And also not the human resource person, but like mentioned, the ESG. ESG are usually looked upon by senior management, by people like the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, or the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. They care because they care about the company prices, because the company share prices are indicative of, usually to most people are indicative of the company health in that regard. People have confidence in the company. They have the reputation. So ESG report turns out to be a very, very important component going forward. So environment, they do a lot of work and so on. But we at IITTI, we focus a lot on the S part, the social impact.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. And I appreciate that you've taken the time to define for us what IITTI is, because it's very easy to think of IITTI as another training institute, right? But now it is clear that you provide the standards and possibly the training materials that other training institutes can license, right, to help other people or to help candidates, job applicants, get their World Civility Index, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so my question is, right, with respect to the specific ask for us, so it's a one-pager, a condensed one-pager that will make, now this is the important part, companies HR use IITTI, right? Because it is different I think it would be different if we say prepare a one-pager that can be used by the CFO to attract investment. So it is different, right? What we are focusing on is a one-pager that the HR function in a company can use.
Yes. Now, I'm a greedy person. Can we have one pager where it appeals to both the HR and the
Okay.
ESG people in a
Okay.
company?
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, like I said, I'm greedy. So I'm wondering if that is a good thing, or should we really separate to have two one pager, one pager for human resource and another pager for the ESR guru?
No,
Yeah.
I personally think that we should not separate like um like functions or writing two different one pages, because when you look at the S in the ESG that talks about social, there's like an interplay between what HR is currently doing and the social skills, right? So I do not personally think we should separate. I feel like we can have a one pager that appeals to,
The
But
whole
say,
company.
diversity, inclusion, and all of those bits, which centers around the social in ESG.
I
So
so yeah, they're kind of intertwined. They're
yeah,
yes,
it's not
yes,
like
yeah,
apples and
ex-
oranges. They're like
mhm,
apples and lime or orange and lime. They're kind of similar,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Talk
So they're
about
still like citrus fruits, right?
yeah, they
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, good,
yeah,
good.
yeah. One more question, Patrick. What are some of the successes that IITTI has achieved so far? Because it'll be helpful if you can maybe highlight some of these things in the marketing
Yeah,
material. Yeah.
yeah.
Especially, sorry to just interject, especially company that have started using you
Yeah,
guys. What
yeah,
is it that they've been
And
talking?
what's been the benefits? What's been
Yeah,
yeah.
what has changed, like before using IITTI's say training, and
and
when they were not using it?
Mhm.
Because it's easy to say, oh, IITTI is the best, IITTI has all of the training materials, but
yeah,
look at the world that we're in right now. There's so many places or so many websites that you go that already have like some training materials that centers around social skills, right? So
yeah.
we just want to be able to show them and say that, oh, IITTI, as rich as they've done the work, they have all the training materials that are able to measure all of these aspects. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, very, very good questions. In fact, the more we look into that, the more I look into it, the more I say that we are not even the keeper of any curriculum, any content, because there's so much good content out there.
Mm,
There are
Yes,
a lot of good
exactly.
content.
Yeah.
We talk about Stanford, we talk about UBC and UCW and so on. There
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of good contents, and there are also commercial ones, and there are
Yeah.
also trainers on Udemy, on Coursera, and so on.
mm,
Can we're very greedy, like I said. I'm very greedy. Can we put everything under one umbrella? And the answer has been yes. With encouragement. I'll tell you, there are three groups that you would have heard of that are encouraging us. The reason why I said this is possible is because we are just a shell. I'm a computer programmer. When I write software, it can serve one person, one company, or it can serve 1 million company. It doesn't
That's
really
right.
matter to me that much. It's very scalable in that sense. And the thing is though, the world is so big that no single training companies or organization can cover everybody. They can go to China, Africa, and say, oh, we're gonna be everything, and they kill all the other competitors. We don't think like that. We think that we can be inclusive. Everybody can have a piece of the pie in the new future. I'll tell you why. Uh, the capitalistic, cutthroat, Darwinian way of the survival of the fittest is not really good for soft skills. Hard skills like engineering, myself being an engineer, yeah, of course, the person who can solve the differential equation the
Oh,
earliest, the
the soft
fastest,
skills.
will win. So there's winners and losers. But when you come to soft skills, we're talking about people's emotion. We're talking about people's empathy. And what happened when you leave people behind? Well, they create a lot of problems socially. And so I'm very happy that links to what I'm going to be speaking next. That one of the three organizations that root us on. One is called the United Nations. And in 2019, we got accepted to be part of the United Nations Sustainable Development. United Nations, they have, thank you, they have something called SDGs. Like I said, there are a lot of acronyms here. UNSDG, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And there are something like 16 or 17 of them, like I mentioned before, poverty, climate, and so on. And they accepted us, so we're part of their Department of Economic and Social Affairs, DESA or DISA. And so they say, hey, this is good. This index, you can use it for measurement. They understand that unless there's measurement, there's no management. And if there's no management, you can't improve something that you can manage. So when the management comes in, then we're talking about we can measure empathy in a very roundabout way. It's not about measuring, well, you got 70% empathy or that. It doesn't make sense. It's not like math where oh yeah, I got 70% right, 30% wrong. What does it mean if you get 70% of empathy? It doesn't mean very much. So by looking at research and a lot of very experienced people, researchers and so on, they gave us clues. They say, no, that's not the right thing. How do you improve empathy? Let's start from the very top question. And the next questions down is, well, you can improve empathy only when there's awareness. If there's no awareness, if the person is not even aware, is not even thinking about, wow, this poor guy just fell down the stairs, maybe I should help him. If he's not even aware of something like this, he's thinking of something else, he will never go out and help that person. So from improving empathy to understanding that is the awareness. Now you say, okay, good, we're on to something. How do you improve awareness? Well, the next question down is, well, you have more exposure. When a person has more exposure to empathetic situation, to a culture, to environment that are more empathetic, people do tend to become more empathetical over time on average. Those are research done. It's not said by Patrick Chun. I'm just the messenger. And they're actually a person that actually called Professor Richard Thaler from the University of Chicago, for example. He said something along the same lines. He wrote a book about something called nudge theory. Nudge as in like you push something a little bit, and so on. His theory is you can change culture by little nuggets that you feed into the society or company or wherever. By little nudges now and there, people can change in a big way. So even if you're a big oil tanker, you don't move it very quickly, but by little nudges and so on, you can change that very readily over time. So it's very effective. He wrote a book called Nudge Theory, and he won the Nobel Prize for that. So that is how powerful this thing is. So that's why we designed the micro learning, reading a little thing by listening to the nudge theory. So that's how you change. So going back to empathy. Empathy, how to improve it? Well, by awareness. By awareness, you have exposure. So by little nudges, we can have more awareness and we can improve empathy. So by measuring the number of exposure, we are indirectly measuring empathy in that regard there. So that was the major breakthrough that would say, wow, we can actually measure empathy or other soft skills like resilience, motivation, and all that. So that is why, when we talk to United Nations, we say, well, no, we can actually measure something like this. And I think some people up there, they listen to something like this. So that's organization number one. There are two other organizations in 2023 now, about a year or so ago, we got accepted by MIT, Presencing Institute. And MIT, of course, is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a bunch of very smart engineers, engineers like myself and so on. And they have this Presencing Institute, presencing, meaning presence. Presence is now. Think about the people around you and so on. And so you go, what engineers talk about things like that, you know? And the Pressing Institute, you know, they don't talk about, you know, thermodynamics or calculus or anything like that. The first thing they do every time they're a meeting is 1 minute meditation. Okay, these are a bunch of engineers. Okay, and you know, when I was in engineering school, there's nothing about, you know, presence or, you know, things like that. Meditation, no, 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 no. It's never like that. But you see, even the technical people, they understand it's not technology that will solve humanity's problem. It's not the only thing. There's need to be the soft side, the soft skills that needs to come in. So they talk about sensing, they talk about feeling, they talk about that into providing and building new products and services for the new world order. I'll talk a little bit more about the new world order that is coming. You guys have to face it. So that's the second organization. The third organization is called IDG, Inner Development Goals. You go, hey, wow, my gosh, IDG, Patrick, it sounds so similar to the SDG. And you're right. SDG is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals I was talking about. IDG is the answer to the inadequacy. Well, I don't want to get into trouble, but I'm okay. I'll tell you the reason why. IDG is the response to the shortcoming of SDGs. SDG is the United Nations SDGs. IDG is saying that we can fix it. We can plug in the holes. I'll tell you why. There's a story. The United Nations, about a year and a half ago, the General Secretary Antonio Guterres, Mr. Guterres, and team had a report saying that all the UN SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, are 85% behind schedule. 85% behind schedule. And this, I mean, UN SDG is well respected. You know, a lot of companies and organizations aim for the goals of SDGs. You know, their 15-year ambition, this goal from 2015 to 2030, a 15-year project. And last year was the midpoint, 2024. So at midpoint, they have reports saying that all the SDGs are something like 85% behind schedule. So halfway through is 85% behind schedule. Now, IDG is saying that, well, there's a problem. Just because, you know, you want to fix environmental issues, pollution, and so on, you can't say, okay, this is the end goal. We have a whole bunch of engineers and scientists. Let's put them to work, A to B, straight line. Get them to the river and measure the ppm, the parts per million of mercury or dioxin or whatever. Yeah, it works. But how come they're still 85% behind schedule? Now, they're saying that that's because, yes, there are brilliant engineers and scientists out there, but where's the root cause then? There are solutions out there. The root cause is that most people in the world don't care. That is the root cause. And you go, why do they don't care? Well, now IDG are saying that, and other organizations are also saying that. It's not because there are no solution. It's because people don't care. They got more immediate things to worry about. Things like discrimination, things like not being safe, not feeling respected at work, being bullied, all kinds of issues that are personal. And the World Health Organization, WHO, also have a report saying that right now young people have a mental, listen to this, mental crisis, not just mental issue, but a mental crisis right now, especially with young people. A young man right now in the Western world, I think there's something like double the chance of committing suicide compared to other groups in society and so on. Well, why is that? You know, those are all inner issues. So IDG is saying that there's inner development goals. So when they start out, they have something like 10,000 scientists, engineers, sociologists, and coaches, and so on, hammer out a whole framework of, classifying, empathy, social connections, and so on. So they start from the inside, talking about your surrounding and talking about bigger to the community and so on. So they need to develop this before people can have the mental space to think about the big things like environment and climate and so on. So the argument is develop from the inside to the outside. So that is the IDG spirit. Now, who are the founders of IDGs? IDGs, oh, by the way, right now they have something like 30,000 professors and scientists and coaches and instructors. And they are something like 100 different chapters around the world. So they have grown very quickly in the last few years. They were founded by Harvard University and a few other universities, Stockholm University, Lund University. I believe these are in Sweden. And one of the early supporter is a company that you have probably heard of and bought things from. It's called IKEA. IKEA is one of the supporter of IDG, along with Harvard and some of the other good folks in Sweden and so on. So IDG invited us to be part of their collaboration team, just like MIT's Presencing Institute. And I'm very happy to report that there's a book that IDG in Switzerland is writing. And one of the chapters is about the World Civility Index. It's about the IITTI World Civility Index, about us. Now, IDG, they are a big organization, nonprofit. They have created all this framework of empathy and so on, like I mentioned to you. Why do they want the World Civility Index to be one of the chapter? This is the words they say. The World Civility Index quantifies the IDGs. So we're very small, but we quantify, we put a number on it. So I think that is exactly where IITTI wants to be, is we're a very small organization, but we occupy a space that has a definite reasons for existence. And all the trainers and so on in IDG, like I mentioned, 30,000 plus strong, they can use the World Civility Index after the training for their students, millions of students around the world. So we're in the works. Again, this is our way of marketing. It's personal experience, personal connections, personal relationship with them. Is that a good way to scale? Well, we'll see. We'll see. So those are the background stories behind why we're doing what we're doing in that regard.
Okay, thank you so much, Patrick, for letting us in on all the companies that have used IITTI's model and are seeing results. So I think I have two questions. So the first question is, you know how even in organizations we're told that we have to do trainings, like compulsory trainings, and we just do it because we've been told to do it. Like, I just want to get this done. Like, it's not like we really learn anything from it per se. You're just like, okay, the company has said we should do it. So my question is, um, what makes IITTA's training materials different? Like is it interactive? Because I find that for me, when your trainings are interactive, I get to engage more. But if I'm just walking through a training and it's just like, I'm just like, oh, can this be done? Like, so what are the minutes? And I also feel like if it's too long, people get bored easily. So like, what approach is IITTI taking in that regard to make sure that people are going through the training and they're actually learning, or they're actually improving, or taking in the lessons and adapting it to their lives, because the whole point of this is to change people from the inside, right? So how do you make people actually go through those training materials such that they take the lessons and the learnings from it? So my second question is, what is IITTI's unique value proposition? Because like, it's almost like there are bits of this already in places. Say like Coursera, there are some institutions already doing bits of soft skills. They're already teaching empathy. If you go on Udemy now, you can type in empathy courses or say emotional intelligence or cultural awareness. You will find something, right? So so what sets you apart? What's your unique value proposition? So that even when you're writing this marketing proposal, we can say that, hey guys, this is it. Like IITTI is the future, or this is where we should be. So like, those are my two questions.
Yeah. Very, very good question. The first one is, um, we didn't know any better. I think we still don't know, this the real holy grail of what is the best way of training. So that's why we said we are the umbrella. We only give the numbers, but we do see the trend. The trend is micro lessons.
Okay.
They're already research and also very reputable professors and they have lots of experience. They say a 3 hour business ethics kind of a seminar is a waste of time.
Yeah, I
So
agree with you totally.
don't let a lot of the trainers hear
know
this.
Well,
that
it's the truth, because like 30, like 1 hour
it
in, I'm
takes
already
time.
yawning.
You're already tired.
Yeah, man.
You're already gonna go,
You're
oh,
already zoning out.
Yeah, you're already zoning out and you're like, okay, next.
Next.
but you know, uh, I'm in a very good position because I'm not a trainer, whereas all my other co-founders, they're all trainers. And so I'm the odd man out in more ways than one. And so when I say I don't know, how do you train? Well, that's effective. They say, oh, of course, I would love to stand in front of a class and give it all to them. My training quality is really good. And I go, well, then how come the business is so small? They're
Yeah.
doing good business. I'm not saying they're doing poorly. They make good money and they have lots of clients and so on. But in the grand scheme of things, in the whole world, is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Really a drop in the bucket. It's a very good drop. It's a very high quality. But why are all the other people are not resonating? And
Yeah.
that's because most people, well, now people have a shorter, well, that's the urban legend, perhaps. We have a shorter lifespan than a goldfish. Is 6 seconds, I heard. Goldfish is 7 seconds. Well, I don't believe it. Okay. Well, at least I think my attention span is at least 9 seconds. Uh, so I don't, but anyway, the strategy that we encourage, we cannot mandate this. It's three things. One is it has to be long term. A 3 week or even 3 months, you will not be able to see results. It has to be 3 years, if anything. The ship moves very slowly, but once it moves, it moves. That's the thing. And that's why a lot of companies can't spend time and money in training, because CEOs, especially in big companies, their tenures are measured by quarters. If next quarter you're doing well, your job could be in jeopardy. So let alone 3 months or 3 years. You can talk about 3 quarters. You talk about every quarter. Can we see result every quarter? And so most CEOs will say, let's cut the budget for this kind of long-term soft skill training that we're not going to see results right away. And if we see it, how do we measure it? How do they measure their company culture changing, and so on? Now, there are cases that the numbers speak for itself. One of them is a company called Zappos, Zappos, with the exclamation mark at the end.
Yeah.
They used to sell shoes online.
Shoes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, some of you may have heard of it.
Yeah, we read about it.
Oh,
Right.
okay, yeah, Tony Shi, and so late Tony Shi, and they train their like 6 7 weeks when the industrial average was training 2 or 3 days, and he was the laughing stock. But then, hey, he got Zappos to be bought out by Amazon over lots of money. So those are cases where you can't measure, you can't micro measure everything. Wow, is my employee getting better and answering phone calls or whatever? But they say, well, just to look at, the numbers speak for itself. A lot of company. He went through the dot-com boom and bust in year 2000, 2001, not only survive but really thrive. And how hard could it be, selling shoes online? But then, they got bought out by Amazon because of their merits, and because they look at company culture and people relationship very differently. One of their longest phone call with them, usually in companies like that, their KPI is how many phone calls can you answer in an hour. They don't measure it like that. They say build a relationship. Tony would say the longest phone call at Zappos was something like 8 hours. One phone call. Oh, wow, my gosh, what do? You guys are selling shoes. They say every phone call is a branding opportunity.
Yeah.
That's the right way of thinking about it. So how do you invest into your people in something like this? We'll have ROIs that is beyond your imagination. But if you try to measure everything very short term, it becomes very short-sighted in that sense. But it's very hard because, like I said, public company, a lot of pressure to perform quarter by quarter, every 3 months. So those are the things that are. But the World Civility Index comes in and say, why don't you build a pipeline of people who understand soft skill, people skills before they come in, before they join. So that's why we're talking to your professor, UCW and MIT and so on. Is we realize we need to build a pipeline of young people who have already earned points and so on while they have time in school before they look for a job. And so it's good for the students, good for the company because now they have a pipeline, and good for the ESG in that regard. And UN, they would love to be able to get that 85% behind schedule to be maybe a little bit further, because now people feel safer and so on, so they can think more about the big things like climate and all that. So that is a big mouthful, that a single measurement can help change the whole situation in that regard. I hope I answer questions here. Second part is the value proposition is we provide the measurement. Nobody else provide an open standard, open source measurement. There are a lot of assessment tools out there, but those assessment tools are usually a snapshot. They like take a photo of you. Oh, hey, there you are. That's who you are. Your personality is this and this and this type, and so on and so forth. Whereas the IITTI is really a learning tool. You can earn points and you can accumulate it over time. So it's not a static thing. It's a long-term measurement rather than a short-term snapshot.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I have a question. You said something about like licensing, like selling your license. So I just want to know, are there companies right now that you are selling to that are paying you for the standards that you provide?
Yeah, there are training companies that trainers that we work with for quite a number of years. For example, in the Philippines, there's Miss Carolina Tan. She runs a very successful training company, and she does a lot of training for corporations and so on. They, like I said, Miss Tan can make the big bucks. She and her entourage of fellow companies, members. But we charge $1 per lesson per student. So every mini lessons, we charge that. In some developing worlds, we give the very steep discount and so on. Over the years, we have 200,000 participants around the world. Many of them are very, very low fee, if nothing, because they can't afford it. We work with refugee camps. We help them in having understand that the future world, they really need to think about the people skills, and they're in a very unique position that they are holding a treasure. That's part of the soft skills, is they're holding a treasure that they don't see. I said, I'm not a refugee. I have never been a refugee. I don't know how it feels, but you do. Why don't you guys write articles or books? And at the end of it, we can put a World Civility Index number on it, and we can sell these kind of books and so on to many, many, for example, high schools, universities. And so that's how we can help them generate money. So this is not about, the rich and famous and the private schools who can afford something like this, but even the refugee camps, they have the blood, sweat, and tears that are a treasure, ironically, in that sense. So this is the way how IITTI provide values, is a number, but for the refugee camps, once they write something like this, we can help them monetize. We can help them make money out of their tragedy in some sense. So it's very hard because many of the young people there, they're semi-illiterate and so on. So there needs to be a lot of steps, and we're gathering like-minded people who want to help them. ESG, remember? If we can talk to companies and say there are lots of opportunities that you can really make a difference, and be able to quantify it, put a number on it to see how much progress you make. This is the opportunity. And so there are good companies that'll say, oh, okay, let's look at it. So all these take time. I'm one man. So how do we scale that in a very positive way? That is a big challenge.
Yeah.
I have another question, Patrick. I'm sorry, I'm just like I just want to get the full picture so that when we're advising or drawing up the marketing proposal, we know where, what to write and how to position IITTI for success. So my question is, do you currently do any form of marketing right now?
Yes. My marketing, I'm the old-fashioned guy. I'm an old guy, okay? The only way I know is personal contact, personal relationship. So my marketing budget, very small, $10,000 a year or less, is I go to trade shows, I go to conferences. So I just buy a plane ticket, pay for the conference, my room and board and food.
And have
Uh,
did you any success? Like, what's been the conversion rate from like the conferences or like I don't know, the places that you go to?
Good. It's it keep IITTI running. Like I said, we are cash positive. Of course, we have very low overhead. All the IITTI members are volunteers, like myself. In the 14 years, I charge zero salaries and so on. So, well, of course, I'm in a very lucky position. I ran a company before, sold it, make a little bit of money and so on. So I can sustain. But ITTI, in terms of the finance, is we have a fund. So when money comes in, we put into this fund. Part of it, we give it to United Nations. We allot it to United Nations work. So 20% goes in there.
Okay.
But the rest of the fund, we want to keep it so that when I retire or if I die someday, the next guy who comes in as the CEO, probably some young, well, got to be younger than me, we need to have, we need to get paid, So the funds will be able to support that, and when more money comes in, ITTI can be sustainable in the long term. So we're setting up the fund as a piggy bank, so to speak. So in the future, people when they need to get paid, they will be paid.
Okay.
And are you willing to look into like other marketing options? Because like you said, the future lies with younger people. And there aren't a lot of young people who
Gen
would
Z.
go for a conference.
No.
They would
Yeah.
rather like read something online, like a social media post, or like even if there was a conference, it would have to be held online with something that can actually grab their attention.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, we work with a group of UCW, University Canada West students, and they say, "Oh, Patrick, you should really set up a discussion group or two, so that you know who your guys are, and young people can participate, so on and so forth." So we have right now, in our feeble attempt to set up discussion groups on LinkedIn. There are a few groups. They're for different themes. And so we encourage young people, students like yourself, to join in. There are many projects going on. I'm very excited because, like I said, in the 14 years, there's very little, up and down, nothing, or sometimes even drops because people think that we are going to die, and then it gets back up and so on. But we're at the point where United Nations is here, the MIT Presencing Institute, the Harvard's IDG, and so on, writing a book about us and so on. The inflection point is here. There are people around the world who say, "Wow, Patrick, young people like you," they say, "I really dig into this ITTI. Can I go to wherever and I want to do the advocacy? I want to do the marketing." I said, "Yeah, go. Make lots of money. Just give me the $1 per lesson per person. We're happy in that regard." So those are the things that I would love to hear from you. What maybe proposing this to the human resource people are not the best thing. Maybe the one pager should be about appealing to people so that they would start a ambassadorship program at school, at every different
Yeah.
schools, so they can earn points and so on while they're in school. They are all blue oceans at this point. They are all untapped potentials where I would think that some young people, if I'm 30 years younger, I'll do that. Go to university and say, well, this is what we can do. We set up a micro credentialing program. All your students can earn World Civility Index points, and so your university students who come out would have a better chance of getting employed or something else. Um, I'll talk about the something else before I quit. There's something called AI, artificial intelligence. And unless we have been hiding under a rock, everybody understand that AI is here. And there are already jobs being displaced, accountant, lawyers, many jobs, even
Yeah.
engineers and
Yeah.
doctors. So what are we all going to do? 8 billion, 7 billion, 8 billion of us will be virtually unemployed in the traditional sense. That is the questions that UN is asking, the MIT Presencing Institute, the Harvard's IDGs, and many other groups are thinking about that. And AI experts are all saying that. So the conclusion is there needs to be a universal income that you get paid, just like when there's COVID-19. In Canada, we all get a check, $1,000, no questions asked, right? That's a form of universal income, or what they call UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Basically.
And so UBI is being kicked around. OpenAI's ChatGPT's CEO Sam Altman, very insightful, seeing that he actually is experimenting with UBI. He's actually giving, I think, a small town in California somewhere money without any asking. Okay, no questions asked, and observe what happens. So those are kind of things that are happening in the world, and you as young people will come across at a point where AI is here. Let's say in 5 years, in 10 years, what are you going to do? you all of a sudden you realize that all your work is in vain. Is that going to be the case? The conclusion with many people is that no, your education now is more important in the future because you understand where things are, and then you can go to the future. Without understanding now in the past, it's very hard to move to the future. The future is going to be AI doing most of the dirty work, most of the technical work. But then the people here, like I said, 8 billion people are here. So unless we learn how to have empathy and the love and the soft skills to work with other people to help one another, we're going to tear each other apart. And so we're at a juncture in humanity where we can go one way or we can go the other way. One way is the dystopia. We're all going to kill each other. The other way is an utopia that we're all going to be able to care for one another and live much better than previously in that regard. So with the groups I was talking about, they have already invented, quote unquote, created new careers that in the future are based on people helping people. That you have never heard those terms before. New careers with new terms that are going to be in the future. And the idea is the World Civility Index is going to be central to something like this. And that is you create new career, people can earn points. So it'll be a new kind of credentialing system that can be in that regard, universal across the world in that sense. And going back to UBI, you say, well, $1,000 per person per month. Well, that's going to create a lot of lazy people, some people would argue. So with the World Civility Index, the concept is the more points they earn, that means the more empathy, the more they can relate to other people, the more they can contribute to the new civilization. They can earn more points. So the UBI will be a graduated scale based on the World Civility Index in that regard. So it's not creating lazy people, but we're creating people who are more loving, who are more caring, and so on in that regard. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that are coming, and very, very smart people are designing those kind of system in that regard. And that's why we are so excited, but yet at the same time, there's a butterfly in my stomach in where should we go? How should we write that one pager? Because there's so many things that are possible. And in a world where there are a lot of options, it's actually harder to make decisions like that. It's not like, oh, this is the only way. Well, then that's easy. Everybody sleeps at night. Nobody, but now it keeps me up at night and saying, what is the thing, given that there's limited resources, that we can have the maximum amount of influence in that regard.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Patrick.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Patrick, and thank you for explaining everything to us. I think with all these, we've gained some information that will enable us to be able to put the proposal together. Or does anyone still have any more questions that you would like to ask Patrick?
No questions from me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an hour of very intensive
Yeah.
Training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am so sorry.
No, it's okay.
To me,
Yeah.
like myself and my group, we have been thinking about this for 14 years, 24/7, at least for me. So it is a lot of stuff, but yeah, this is probably very alien to many people. But I'm glad that this is recorded. I'll upload it to YouTube and I'll send you the link so everybody
Yes.
can revisit it.
Just one
Exactly.
final question. Sorry,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry. I'm
yes,
sorry.
Mhm.
I just want to know, just curious. I'm just curious, like, what's the adoption rate in Canada? I know you had mentioned Philippines. I know you've mentioned like other countries. Like, I didn't know of IITTA before now. And so I'm just like, what has been the adoption rate? Like, and it's like Vancouver just here, and I didn't know of IITTI before now. So what's been the adoption rate in Canada?
Yeah.
And if there's been any challenge, like if there's been any like challenge that you're faced in getting it across to like organizations or companies in Canada. And also I think that now would be a best time to like, you know, market like IITTI, because people are all about made in Canada, you know,
Um,
evolving from Canada and all that.
yes. I'm not sure if you've heard of the singer from Vancouver called Brian Adams. And well, he's my generation. And he once said, he said, if you want to be a famous singer, you pretty much from Canada, what I said, you know, if you want to be a famous singer from Canada, you pretty much have to make a name for yourself outside of Canada first before you can, before you be famous in Canada. So Canada, as a Canadian myself, you know, I can say we are now I'm going to get into a lot of trouble, but um, we have been blessed in Canada with tremendous amount of natural resources and oil, wood, fish, water. Um, there's another phenomenon called the Dutch disease. I'm not sure if you have heard of it.
Mhm.
Dutch disease, meaning pretty much like if you have too much of a natural resources, uh, the country many times don't tend to do very well. Um, whereas countries with very little natural resources, they have no choice but to really work on their human capital development, like Bangladesh or Singapore or Hong Kong, or you know, places where there are very few natural resources, but because they realize that, they focus on the human capital development, and like in Singapore and Hong Kong, you know, they come out on top. Singapore in 1979 under Lee Kuan Yew, they have something similar to the World Civility Index. They have a national courtesy campaign starting from 1979. That's another Zappos moment, and that is a macro scale measurement. And Singapore has one of the highest GDP per capita right now, because back then they realized it's not just the finance or the engineering and so on. They really need to build social fabric so that people around them feel safe, feel content, feel proud, if you may. That is the social fabric. They want people to be courteous on the bus, lining up, saying hi to the neighbors. Very, very little things that, you know, how do you measure that with GDP? GDP doesn't measure that. So one of the major arguments, some economists around the world say, well, Patrick, you know, you should really get your butt to work hard on the World Civility Index, because that could be the new measurement to replace GDP. GDP would not mean very much in the future, because AI and the robot, when they do all the factory work and so on, you can produce gazillion pairs of Nikes, and you know, many laptops and all that. That is not, there's no limitation based on human labor anymore. So GDP would be less and less important. So how do you measure the real welfare, wellness of people? Is all about empathy, if you boil it down to a single word. So how do you measure that? Who's going to measure that? Well, then these economists say, Patrick, you know, that's why you need to do your work, because that is something that could be very important. And why not? Why not from Canada? We're already known to be nice people, so we'll measure that in that sense. So those are kind of things. If you talk about branding, we have the branding in Canada. So even though the adoption rate in Canada is, shall I say, low, but other countries see the light. They adopt it quickly.
Mhm.
So I would not be surprised that there are leapfrogging of countries of Nigeria, of places where they see that. And when I get my chance to talk to African friends, I said, you guys are sitting on, you know, a potential huge resources, and that's your labor. The young Africans, they will be able to fill all the labor shortages around the world. Look at
Mhm.
China. They are running out of young people. in Scandinavian countries, in North America, in Europe, and so on. We're running out of young people, but Africa has a lot of young people. If they have this kind of people skills, intercultural skills, they can fill a lot of the vacuum in that regard. So the lots of opportunity that I see.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick.
No
All
more
right.
questions, guys. Before.
Okay. You have a good Saturday afternoon, and
Thanks.
we'll chat again then.
Okay,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Thanks,
Bye.
guys.